You sit in silence, close your eyes, and try to empty your mind. But instead, the thoughts grow louder. Sound familiar? What if the way you're meditating is quietly sabotaging your peace? In this video, we'll uncover 3 hidden mistakes even seasoned practitioners make, and how a subtle shift in your approach can transform frustration into true clarity. Welcome to Trandy Wisdom, where every breath leads you closer to the truth within. 1. Trying to empty the mind instead of observing it. In a quiet room, a young man sits cross-legged on a cushion. The candle flickers. Outside, the trees murmur with the wind. He closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, determined to still his mind. But within moments, thoughts rise like waves in a restless ocean. Errands left undone, words spoken in haste, fragments of memory, plans for tomorrow. Frustrated, he tightens his shoulders and tells himself, "Stop thinking, be silent." Yet the harder he tries to silence his mind, the louder it seems to become. This is the first hidden misunderstanding on the path of meditation. The belief that to meditate is to make the mind empty, blank, or silent. It is a misconception so common that it often causes practitioners to abandon the path before they have truly begun. They imagine that a successful meditation is one in which no thought appears. And so, when thoughts inevitably arise, as they always do, they conclude, "I cannot meditate." But in the heart of mindfulness practice, as taught by the Buddha and transmitted through centuries of living tradition, there is no war against thought. There is only the gentle art of seeing. The mind is not a machine to be switched off. It is a living field, wide and luminous, where clouds of thought pass through a sky of awareness. These clouds are not enemies. They are not intrusions. They are simply what the sky does. It forms clouds. The trouble begins when we believe we must chase them away in order to be spiritual or peaceful. But peace does not come by force. It comes through understanding. When we sit in meditation, we are not trying to become thoughtless. We are learning to become friends with our thoughts, to greet them as one would greet a guest at the door. We notice them, we bow to them, we smile, and we let them go. In Plum Village tradition, we often begin with the breath. The breath is an anchor. It is the thread that brings us back to this moment, this body, this life. When a thought arises during meditation, we do not scold ourselves. We do not push it away. We simply note, thinking, and return to our breath. This moment of noticing is already mindfulness. It is not failure. It is the practice itself. Try this. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and follow your breath in and out. When thoughts appear, observe them. Ask gently, "What are you?" Maybe a worry, maybe a memory, maybe a desire. Watch it come, watch it stay, watch it go. Like clouds, no thought remains forever. In this way, the mind becomes transparent, not because thoughts vanish, but because we are no longer tangled in them. We are the sky, not the storm. The great forest monks of Thailand used to speak of the knower. In their tradition, the mind has 2 modes, the one that thinks and the one that knows. Thinking is happening. Meditation is the art of resting in the knower. You don't need to wrestle with every thought. You only need to notice that you are not the thought. You are the awareness behind it. One day, a student came to the Zen master and said, "My mind is noisy. I try to meditate, but there are too many thoughts." The master served him tea and replied, "Try listening to your thoughts as you would listen to the sound of this tea pouring, without judgment, without resistance." The student smiled. He had never thought of his inner world as something to listen to. In the natural world, we do not ask the river to stop flowing. We do not ask the bird to stop singing. Why? Then, do we ask the mind to stop thinking? The mind is like a river. It flows. It can carry dust and leaves, but also light and life. Our task is not to dam the river, but to learn how to sit by its banks with clarity. When we approach meditation with the expectation of silence, we create stress, we create opposition. But mindfulness is the opposite of violence. It is the tender act of opening to whatever is there, without clinging, without pushing away. Some people ask, but what if the thoughts are painful? This, too, is part of the practice. We learn to hold the painful thoughts gently, like a crying child. We do not turn away from them. We breathe with them. Over time, their grip on us loosens, not because we force them away, but because we meet them with compassion. In neuroscience today, researchers have discovered what Buddhist monks have known for centuries, that observing a thought with non-judgmental awareness reduces its emotional charge. In other words, simply being with the thought, instead of battling it, transforms its energy. What ancient masters taught through breath and stillness is now visible on brain scans, yet the wisdom remains the same. Healing begins not through suppression, but through seeing. On the high cliffs of Ladakh, Tibetan nuns sit in stillness for hours, wrapped in maroon robes and mountain silence. They do not try to stop their minds. They simply rest in awareness, breath after breath, allowing the thoughts to come and go like the wind across the rocks. In their stillness, there is great movement, movement not of thought, but of deep seeing. To observe the mind is to reclaim it. To let it be without needing to fix it is the true discipline of a spiritual path. This is not passive. It requires great strength, not the strength to force stillness, but the strength to stay present with the mind as it is, not as we wish it to be. And slowly, as we practice in this way, something begins to shift. The inner chatter grows quieter, not because we have silenced it, but because we have stopped feeding it. Like a fire left unfed, it begins to settle on its own. In the garden of mindfulness, we do not uproot thoughts. We water awareness. We cultivate patience. We learn to trust the process. There is no perfect meditation, only the practice of returning again and again to the present moment. As the bell rings to end the session, the young man opens his eyes. The room is still the same. The candle burns low, but something in him has changed. He's no longer fighting the noise within. He's watching it, breathing with it, letting it be, and in that allowing, there is a deep quiet, one not born from absence, but from presence. So the next time you sit to meditate, do not aim to empty the mind. Sit to observe, sit to listen, sit to befriend the mysterious dance of your own consciousness. You are not here to win against your mind. You are here to remember that your mind was never your enemy. The peace you seek is not beyond thought. It is in the space that holds thought. And that space, vast and clear, has been within you all along. 2. Using meditation to escape emotional pain. At the edge of a rice field in early morning light, a woman kneels in silence. Her hands rest gently on her lap. Her breath moves like a breeze through tall grasses. And yet, inside her chest, something tight, something unspoken, trembles. Grief, perhaps, or loneliness, or a wound too long buried beneath the surface of ordinary days. She came to meditation hoping for relief. She had read that mindfulness could heal her pain. She believed, as many do, that meditation would be her escape, a way out. But in the quiet, the pain grows louder, and in her stillness, old stories come knocking. This is one of the deepest misunderstandings on the path. The belief that meditation is a tool to flee our suffering, to silence our sadness, or to numb what hurts. But mindfulness, in its truest form, is not escape, it is embrace. When we sit with our eyes closed, we do not vanish. We arrive. We arrive in the very place we have avoided for so long, our own heart. And in that sacred return, we are not asked to run from sorrow, but to turn toward it with love. The Buddha never promised a life without suffering. Instead, he offered a path to understand it. In the First Noble Truth, he said there is suffering, not as punishment, not as something to conquer, but as a fact of being alive. To live is to touch both joy and pain. Meditation is not a raft to carry us away from that reality. It is a lamp, a gentle light, to help us see clearly what is already here. Many who come to meditation are wounded. They carry the weight of heartbreak, trauma, betrayal, or fear. They sit hoping for silence, but are met with the echoes of memories, voices, and shadows long hidden. And often, when these things rise, the instinct is to push them away. I shouldn't feel this. I want this to stop. This is not peace. But true peace does not come from suppression. It blooms from understanding. In Plum Village, we teach that pain is not an enemy. It is a child who cries out for attention. To meditate is not to shut the door on that child. It is to open the door, kneel down, and say, I am here for you. When sorrow rises in the body, we breathe with it. When anger stirs in the belly, we acknowledge it. When fear whispers in the back of the mind, we bow to it, not to worship suffering, but to recognize that healing begins with presence. There is a practice called compassionate breathing. When a painful emotion arises, we bring awareness to the breath. Inhale, I see you. Sadness. Exhale, I hold you with love. We do not analyze the sadness. We do not judge it. We do not try to dissolve it. We simply offer it space to be. And in that space, something miraculous happens. The emotion softens, not because we forced it to, but because we met it with care. In the forests of Japan, Zen monks walk slowly through falling leaves, their hands clasped, their eyes lowered. They do not walk to escape the world. They walk to return to it. With each step, they touch the earth and their own aliveness. Meditation is like that walk. It is not a way out. It is a way in, into the aching parts of ourselves we once tried to forget. When we use meditation as an escape, we risk turning practices into avoidance. We seek bliss instead of truth. We build a fortress of silence to protect us from the storm inside. But a fortress cannot heal. It can only isolate, and the storm remains. In contrast, when we open to our pain with mindfulness, the very act of staying becomes transformative. Imagine a child screaming in a room. You could close the door, pretend not to hear, or you could enter, sit beside her, hold her hand. The second choice does not silence the scream instantly, but it changes everything. The child is no longer alone. Your suffering, too, wants to be seen, not fixed, not erased, just seen. With tenderness, it may take days, months, or years, but every moment you turn toward it, instead of away, is an act of deep healing. This turning toward is not easy. It requires courage, but not the kind of courage that fights or resists. It is the courage to stay with what is vulnerable, what is raw, and in that staying, you discover that you are larger than the pain. You are the space in which the pain moves. You are the compassion that can hold it all. Scientists today speak of the power of emotional regulation through mindfulness. They speak of the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, of brain waves and nervous system responses. But long before the language of science, the language of the heart knew this truth. When we stop running from our suffering and learn to breathe with it. We begin to heal. In the lotus ponds of Vietnam, the mud is thick and dark, but from that mud rises a blossom so radiant, so pure. It seems impossible, yet it is precisely because of the mud that the lotus can grow. Suffering is not the end of the path, it is the beginning, and meditation is the art of turning mud into blossoms, not by denying the mud, but by honoring its place in the garden. There is a story of a young woman who lost her child and came to the Buddha, asking him to bring the boy back to life. The Buddha told her to bring a mustard seed from any household that had never known sorrow. She searched and searched, but every home she entered had its own story of pain. She returned, empty-handed, but awakened. Suffering is not unique, it is shared. To sit with your own pain is to sit with the pain of the world. And in that sitting, compassion is born. When you next sit down to meditate, do not ask for the pain to leave. Ask how you might befriend it. Do not brace yourself against the wave. Let it wash over you. Let it teach you. Let it soften you. Perhaps what hurts is not the pain itself, but the loneliness of having carried it alone. In meditation, we learn we are not alone. The breath is with us. The earth is beneath us. And the heart is wide enough to hold even this. Let each breath be a hand resting on your back. Let each moment of awareness be a whisper. You are held. You are seen. You are loved. Meditation is not anesthesia. It is presence. It is the art of being with what is, exactly as it is, and slowly, gently, with each breath, the pain becomes less of a weight and more of a doorway into compassion, into connection, into peace. You do not need to escape your pain to find healing. You need only to turn toward it, with eyes open, breath steady, heart soft. The path of mindfulness is not a path that avoids sorrow. It is the path that transforms it. And in that transformation, you do not become someone else. You become more fully yourself, the self who can sit with pain and not be shattered by it, the self who knows that even in the darkest soil, the seed of peace is already alive. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And meditation is the gentle art of letting yourself bloom. 3. Expecting special or dramatic experiences. There is a silence in the early morning before the world awakens fully. The dew still clings to the tips of grass. A heron stands motionless beside a stream, unmoved by the ripples around its feet. In this space, nothing grand occurs, and yet everything is alive. This is the texture of true mindfulness. And yet, many seekers on the spiritual path do not come looking for this. They sit to meditate with eyes closed and hearts hoping for something more. A moment of ecstasy, a light behind the eyes, a sense of being lifted out of the body, the absence of thought, the explosion of insight. They wait for an experience so powerful that it changes them forever. But this expectation is a veil. It clouds the clear view of the present. It transforms the quiet, humble practice of sitting into a restless search for something else, something not here, something not now. We are conditioned by a world that praises the extraordinary, a world of stories that climax in transformation, where characters are struck by lightning and reborn. We carry this narrative into our meditation. That awakening must be loud, that wisdom must arrive like thunder, that to be spiritual is to be changed in an instant. And so, when we sit and nothing happens, no visions, no soaring peace, no special insight, we feel disappointment. Doubt creeps in. Am I doing it wrong? Why don't I feel what others describe? Where is the breakthrough? But the truth is this: the most profound awakening is often the softest. It does not come as a voice. It comes as breath. It comes not as fire, but as water, quiet, slow, patient, like a river wearing down a stone. To meditate, it is not to chase a state of bliss. It is to stop chasing. It is to come home. In each moment of presence, the miracle of life reveals itself, not in visions or supernatural signs, but in the sensation of breath against the nostrils, in the weight of your own hands resting in your lap, in the gentle unfolding of your thoughts as they rise and dissolve. This is not less spiritual. This is the spirit, but the mind, trained to seek intensity, resists this simplicity. It doubts the value of the ordinary. It wants elevation, transformation, transcendence. It does not yet trust that liberation can be found in what is already here. So, we must relearn how to see, to walk slowly across a room and notice the movement of our feet is a miracle. To drink tea and truly taste it, not while planning, remembering, or comparing, but simply tasting, is an act of deep presence. To hear the wind without naming it or turning away, to let it touch the surface of the skin and stay there for a breath longer than usual, is the kind of attention that awakens the soul. True meditation isn't dramatic. It is intimate. It asks us not to ascend into another realm, but to descend into this one, not to empty ourselves in the pursuit of some shining state, but to fill ourselves with the truth of what already is, the hum of the heater, the sound of our own heartbeat, the ache in the spine from sitting too long, and, in turning toward these seemingly mundane things, we discover something radical. We do not need more. What we long for is not a different experience. It is intimacy with this one. When we let go of the need for meditation to be special, meditation becomes real. There are those who have sat for years and never seen a single vision, no colors, no whispers of the cosmos, but they have learned how to sit with their own suffering, how to breathe through sorrow, how to touch a sunrise with complete attention. They have become free, not because they escaped, but because they arrived. We must be careful not to make spiritual practice into performance. The point is not how deep your stillness appears. The point is not how long you can sit, or how rare your experiences are. The point is how deeply you are living, how clearly you are seeing, how gently you are touching life. When you sit in meditation, ask yourself, am I trying to get somewhere? Am I waiting for something to happen? Or can I simply be here, with this breath, this body, this ordinary moment? There is no requirement that your meditation bring joy. There is no requirement that it bring peace. The only thing required is your presence. And when presence is enough, peace arises on its own, slowly, naturally, like fog lifting off a hillside at dawn. Some people describe a shift that happens after years of sitting, a moment when they realize they are no longer sitting to become enlightened, but because sitting itself is a way of being fully alive. There is no longer a goal. There is only the act of returning, again and again, to now. This is the deep current beneath mindfulness, not a search, but a resting, not a journey away from self, but a return to the center of being. It does not need to be impressive to be sacred. It does not need to be loud to be true. If your meditation is filled with thoughts, but you are aware of them, then you are meditating. If your legs ache and your mind resists, but you breathe and stay, then you are meditating. If you feel ordinary, unremarkable, and yet you come back to your breath without needing anything more, then you are tasting the essence of spiritual life. There is a kind of freedom that comes when we stop reaching for the mystical and begin to honor the real. Not every cloud needs to be shaped like a dragon to be beautiful. Not every sunset needs to take your breath away to be enough. Not every breath needs to be calm, and even for it to remind you that you are alive. And not every meditation needs to be profound, to be transforming. The moment you let go of needing the practice to deliver something special, The practice becomes a place where you can finally rest, and in that resting, you may discover something deeper than ecstasy. You may find your original face, the one that was always here, quietly watching, quietly waiting. You may find the silent joy of not needing anything to change, and that joy, though soft, is unshakable. It is not built on an experience. It is built on presence. It is not built on reward. It is built on return. And in that return, moment by moment, you remember the truth you had forgotten. The sacred was never out there. It was always this breath, this step, this moment. You are not failing at meditation because nothing dramatic happens. You are failing only when you refuse to trust in the power of stillness to reveal the beauty of the ordinary. The truth is not always dazzling, but it is always here, waiting for you to see it. The path of meditation was never meant to be a race, nor a performance. It is a gentle return to your breath, your body, your life, just as it is. You don't need to fight your thoughts, escape your emotions, or chase spiritual fireworks to be doing it right. You only need to show up with honesty and tenderness again and again, because real transformation doesn't come from dramatic experiences. It comes from learning how to stay. Thank you for walking this path with Trandy wisdom. May you find peace not in the silence of the mind, but in the quiet courage of presence.